Time comes at you quick. The band hammer. I wanna be your band hammer. Good morning, Patriots. It is Friday. Firearms Friday.
I feel like we just did one of these right around a week ago.
Doesn't it feel like it? So, I want to tell a story. We're going to do firearm stuff today. But I want to tell a story first about a police interaction. And I'm going to try to keep it brief, but I especially want to share this because GCM's watching. I had me a police interaction the other day, and it was amusing. So what happened was, I was out doing some real estate photography, and I showed up at this house. The agent was running late. It was a vacant house, so I had to wait for the agent to get there to let me in. So I pull over and park on the side of the road, just a little down the street from the house, like I always do. That's kind of an SOP, because you don't want your car, or if you can avoid it, any cars, to be in the photos that you're going to be using to list and sell real estate. So I pull up to the side of the road. I get out of my truck and I'm setting up camera equipment, and this dude pulls up and says, "Hey man, you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for checking on me though." And then he says, "Well, I'm just asking because you parked in front of my house and I need you to move." I'm sorry, what now? "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to move." And I said, "Okay, look, I don't want to be, I don't want to have a problem here, but look, I'm here to do a job. I'm parked on a public right of way, and I'm not putting I'm not breaking down all my camera equipment so that I can move my truck because you don't like the way that I'm using the public road in my legitimate business." So we went back and forth for a while. At one point, he actually says, "It'd be bad for you if I got my dogs out here." So, and the race issue is actually pertinent to the rest of the story, so I'll just go ahead and mention this was, in fact, a black guy. So he calls the police. He tells me he's going to call the police, and I said, "Oh, yes, please do. That's not going to go how you think it's going to go." So he calls the police after he threatens to sick his dog on me, and then he just kind of flits around me. And guys, let me tell you what, the police reaction, I'm going to have some good things to say about these cops in a minute, but the only reason I wasn't done and getting ready to leave by the time the cops showed up is because the agent was late. I was at a site for an extra 45 minutes because some shithead decided to get the police involved. In the course of the conversation, he mentions that he likes my Trump sticker. And I said, "Well, that's good. I like Trump too." And he says, "Yeah, but you probably like him for the wrong reasons." I wonder what that's supposed to mean. But I don't have to wonder what that's supposed to mean, because later he explains to the police that the reason he called them is because his wife felt uncomfortable because there's a Proud Boy looking white boy in his yard. Okay, for one, I was never in his yard, and oh, what's that? I have a dash cam. So I have evidence to support that assertion. When the police show up, they immediately ask us both for ID. The homeowner, without hesitation, pulls out his wallet and provides and hands over his ID. And I just looked at the cop and said, "No, thank you." He says, No, I have to identify you." "No, you absolutely do not have to identify an American citizen on public property with no crime. No, I've got to have your ID for my record. Not unless you're willing to articulate some sort of an offense. And then his supervisor showed up, and he asked, okay, what's going on? I said, I'm a photographer. I'm here to shoot some property. And, yeah, that's all I got for you, brother. So this was the sergeant that showed up second. That's the supervisor. The agent shows up and immediately hands over a business card, but no ID. And the sergeant looks at the homeowner and says, brother, this is the public right-of-way. That's expensive-looking camera equipment. This is clearly an actual real estate agent here. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is a real estate photographer that's doing what he says he's doing, and there's nothing else for us to do here. You need to go home. And they got in their cars and left. And so I would like to say I commend the two officers for being very professional, handling the situation quickly and efficiently, and leaving without incident. Now, one of them did make a comment, and this comment was to the homeowner, that they have to respond to calls like this because a situation of the sort can get deadly fast. And like I said, the guy threatened to sick his dog on me at one point. So as viewers of this show, I'm sure I don't have to make any particular assertions. You can imagine how that would likely have gone. Because if I'm not doing anything wrong, you better believe I'm not going to give up, being alive. And then the last thing I want to say about the incident is there were two moments that really amused me. When the homeowner produced his ID without hesitation, and then I told the officer, no, you can't have my ID unless you're willing to articulate an offense. I heard the homeowner under his breath say, shit, man, I should have thought of that. And I almost busted out laughing right there. And then the next one, as the officers were leaving, I asked them politely to each give me a business card with their name and badge number on it. And as they were leaving, but while they were still in earshot, the homeowner made it a point to say, see, I ain't harass them like that because I ain't got no problem with the police. And I said, I don't have a problem with the police either. I don't have a problem with these police. They were professional, courteous, and efficient. They did exactly what I expect my public servants to do. But we had an interaction. This is a CYOA type of deal. You've got to cover your own ass because they may have been perfect professionals right here and now. That doesn't guarantee me that they write honest reports or that I don't hear something else back from them after they've run my tag, which is public information, clearly in view. So I've got no guarantee that this doesn't turn into something later down the road. And so, yes, I got their cards, and I'll retain those for my records just in case something happens. Now, at this point, like I said, the interaction was excellent. It was very professional, very courteous. I don't even feel a need to FOIA their body cam footage, which I did ask them about. They did have body cams on, but that's another reason, just in case something happened and I needed that footage. Having their names and badge numbers makes it possible and much easier in the future for me to FOIA that body cam footage if the need arises. So a thing happened. It was entertaining, and so that was the story. Now, before we get to DGUs, I want to talk a little bit about Stephen Dettelbach.
Okay.
So,
just waiting, trying to be patient.
Okay. So, Stephen Dettelbach is the current director of the ATF. And he is a lot like everybody else that works for Biden. We've talked.
Dude, I wanted to punch this guy before I knew who he was. Like, he has one of those faces where, like...
Oh, that's not him.
Oh.
That's Rep. Mike Johnson.
I still say same.
A Republican from L.A., Lower Alabama.
Wait, it's actually from Alabama? Or
no, Louisiana.
Louisiana. Oh.
I think that's L.A.
Yeah, whatever. He still has a punchable face. I said what I said.
He actually does a solid job questioning the ATF director, but this ATF
that
director
could be hard to do.
Is a lot like A.G. Garland in the way he answers questions, and that's part of what I want to cover.
Dude, one of our children could do a competent job of questioning these shitbags.
Well, and understand that A.G. Dettelbach ran for governor before in Ohio, I believe, and his platform was a gun grabber, gun banning platform then. So we know who this guy is. And that he is now the head of the ATF only further evidences my previous assertions that the ATF should be expunged, absolutely abolished. The existence of the ATF is a violation of the Constitution. Every ATF agent is a rogue federal agent operating in clear violation of the law by merely being associated professionally with the organization. They should be considered no differently than anybody wearing gang colors and threatening to take your money on the sidewalk.
Of firearms from being liable when people misuse their products. There have been numerous instances, whether intentional or unintentional, of Biden administration officials and
Johnson's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The protection of
From Louisiana, Mr. Johnson's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act is a law that provides important immunity to manufacturers and sellers of firearms from being liable when people misuse their products. There have been numerous instances, whether intentional or unintentional, of Biden administration officials and anti-gun advocates, and even the president himself, mischaracterizing that immunity provision that's contained in the statute. And I think the public would benefit from our setting the record straight on the issue. So, Mr. Dettelbach, as the director of ATF, do you agree with President Biden that this law's broad immunity means blanket immunity, and that gun manufacturers are the only industry in America exempted from being sued by the public?
That's an almost direct quote from Biden, that the gun industry has blanket total immunity from any prosecution or litigation or civil action in the United States. And what he's trying to express to people is that
they're Pfizer?
They're allowed to go and murder people without consequence. Hey, hold that thought a second, because the rest of Biden's assertion is that only gun manufacturers enjoy such an immunity. Except that's not the case, because
Pfizer, yeah, no, everybody that was involved in the jab has immunity. Yes, the greatest vaccine ever. So great it barely works, and you're not allowed to sue the people that made it.
I need to correct something you just said. Nobody who has had the jab, which would be involved with the jab, nobody who has had the jab has immunity. And the problem with Pfizer and the like having immunity from civil litigation is the original claim is that the jab came with immunity.
Right.
They are immune from your assertions that you have suffered damage under the false pretense of the expectation of receiving immunity from their jab. How's that for a threat of irony? So,
again, I think the president has given numerous different times. He's talked about this provision. Again, as ATF director, what Congress passes is what we deal with. And we don't do civil litigation in that.
The question was, do you agree with the president that firearms manufacturers have blanket immunity from prosecution and civil litigation? Do you agree with the president's position on that? This is not an answer to that question. And this is the thing that aggravates the shit out of me. I was trying to get on an airplane. I had a toddler and a car seat, and I asked the girl at the counter, do I have to carry the car seat on the plane? And she said, you can if you want to. I said, okay, I appreciate that. My question is, do I have to? Well, yeah, you're perfectly welcome to bring it on. Is there a policy, regulation, or fucking law that requires me, under threat of penalty, to bring the car seat with me? Just stands there doing. I'm like, I didn't ask I understand you misunderstanding the question the first time it's asked, but upon clarification, Jesus Christ, don't try to answer the question you think you wish I asked you. That's not useful.
that sense,
So you,
anyway,
you
that's not
then,
under
if
our...
that's true, and you're going to do what Congress says, then obviously you don't agree
Switch
with
it
the
back
president.
over.
I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but that's what that means.
I think the president has called on Congress to act, and what I'm saying is, as
Just
ATF
answer this
director, I
question.
take what comes
As
out-
you interpret the statute, I assume you're familiar with the statute.
I'm familiar with the statute, but ATF doesn't do civil litigation
I know,
liability
I know
in that
that.
sense. It's not.
Yes, sir. I know, but you're the director of ATF. You're familiar, for example, that vaccine manufacturers have some liability exemption for their COVID vaccines, right?
I actually am not familiar with vaccine
Well, okay.
law.
Most Americans are. Big
Liar.
tech companies are exempt from liability.
Okay, you may not be an expert on vaccine law, but you are not alive in America today without that you've seen a headline related to Pfizer's immunity from prosecution on Facebook, on Twitter, etc. And that's just as a citizen in the course of your normal duties. This guy is a leadership level government official, and you're telling me that he's never even been next to a water, like within earshot of a water cooler conversation about the question of suing one of these pharmaceutical companies. You are an absolute liar. And I would like to point out that as he's answering these questions and giving the answers that he's giving, he's under oath.
Yeah. Uncle Steve says you're unaware if you keep your head up your ass at all times. Yeah, that's a fair point. But
I'm not sure this guy's ass is fat enough to dampen all the noise that's been made by those particular allegations.
yeah,
And that's a statement. I mean, he's a chunky boy.
yeah, he is. He's definitely a chunky boy.
This is not a man who fell out of shape.
No. No, well, I mean, he's a shape. It's just, mostly
Buoyant.
round. That's right. Some people are anchors and some people are life jackets. And, well,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a fat boy. I'm up over 300, but that's because I don't run 100 miles a week anymore. This man has never dodged a ball.
right. Right.
Gelatinous.
Guys like this are why the Chevron deference is probably about to get nuked, because when you say okay, the way agencies interpret vague statutes are going to be how we the courts will choose to interpret vague statutes. Guys like this take advantage of that. They say, well, the statute has wiggle room, so... And
Like, listen, buddy. Listen.
and they're-
The statute's got wiggle room, but for you need to buy 2 seats.
well, no, I'm sure. Well, look, if we change wiggle room to jiggle room, this guy, like, he just needs a pudding pop. Ah.
Pudding. And to hear your commentary, I know you haven't actually watched this clip. It's almost like you know where we're going with this.
But yeah, well, look, I guess I made the point. It's fine. Keep going.
Okay.
No, but you're the director of ATF. You're familiar, for example, that vaccine manufacturers have some
Okay,
liability.
this point's
knowingly
covered.
making false records, that kind of thing. It is not a blanket immunity, and we need you to be clear about that, because the president, intentionally or unintentionally, is misleading the public on it. Let me move to something else. The stabilizing brace rule is finalized this year, is about set to go into effect in the 1st of June. There's been some discussion about it this morning, but I think most of the American people are not yet aware because the mainstream media is not covering this issue. But here's the facts. Due to ATF's unilateral and unconstitutional action, okay, if you own a stabilizing brace, you're required to register it with ATF, turn it in or destroy it by May 31st, or you're going to face criminal penalties. Mr. Dettelbach, as an attorney, I'm assuming you know what a reliance interest is, right? Familiar with the term?
I'm not sure I'm in agreement with your characterization.
Do you know the term reliance interest? I'm not playing games here.
I'm not trying to either. I'm trying to be respectful. I'm in disagreement with your summary of what the.
I haven't summarized it yet. I'm asking you if you know the term.
About what you said. I'm sorry. About
What is a reliance interest? You were a federal prosecutor. What's a reliance?
Well, we don't use it in federal
That guy was a
prosecution, but from being
prosecutor?
a lawyer, reliance generally, I think from my days in contracts and as a civil litigator,
Not a very good one.
refers to the idea that in contract law, when somebody relies to their detriment on certain kinds of matters, that they have some legal claims that they might not otherwise have.
Excellent. It's not just
Is that
confined
a
to contract
Cthulhu
law,
pen
but
on his lapel?
as a lawyer and knowing that definition, knowing the concept, I mean, does it concern you that for years, law-abiding Americans relied on the ATF's guidance in purchasing stabilizing braces, and now due to a regulation, not a law passed by Congress, but a regulation, millions of them are going to suddenly become felons?
First of all, the law doesn't either.
Oh, sorry, we hit it at the same time.
Yeah, I also have a pause button. I think you forget this. Wait. See, the pause debacle threw me.
Okay, maybe this will spring something. I wanted to talk about the reliance issue. So when you're talking about reliance in contracts, a good example, a good way to think about this. Let's say you're renting a home and your AC breaks. The landlord fixes the AC. Months go by, the refrigerator shuts down, breaks. The landlord replaces the refrigerator. It starts to get colder outside, and the heater fails, and the landlord refuses to fix the heater. Well, even if it's not stated in your contract, in your lease, your rental agreement, that those are the responsibility of the landlord, if you take that to court under civil litigation, the reliance will be, it essentially establishes that the landlord, through his actions, has established a reasonable expectation within the relationship of your contract that he is the party responsible for repairs to the property. And so if you've basically lived your life making your financial choices and decisions based on the fact that you do not bear the responsibility of those particular maintenance issues, and then all of a sudden you're being hit with a big bill to cover a maintenance issue that you have a reasonable expectation that you can rely on the landlord for, you actually have a civil litigation that's a very actionable action. He's making, so Mike Johnson here is saying, and he's correct, that the fact that the ATF previously explicitly permitted the use of the pistol braces and has now changed its position on that is just another in a long line of abuses by the ATF with its unconstitutional regulation on these objects, that the people who purchased the items previously did so based on the reliance that they were in compliance with the law as it was stated. And the fact is, that was true at the time. But now, the ATF, what they're doing here by making felons out of people with the stroke of a pen is legislating external to the legislature. They are not a legislative body, and yet they are conducting the acts of legislature.
Well, and first of all, if there are millions of people that own pistol braces in this country, go America. Like, yay.
I don't own a pistol brace.
But look,
Go.
the point that I was making was like, sure, while we're at it, go ahead and get your laser scopes and everything. Yeah, please. Every accessory known to man, get gacked up, please. But no, like,
Yeah, I'm definitely
Steve
looking
says,
for a laser aiming system for my AT4.
Steve says he was a civil litigator, claims he doesn't understand civil litigation in regards to ATF. I hate these people. Exactly. This is how these people gaslight you. Like, oh yeah, sure, I'm a lawyer, did all the lawyery things. I'm such a good fucking lawyer. I'm gonna be the head of the ATF. But gosh, I have no idea. And you saw this with Ketanji Brown. Well, I'm not real sure that I could define a woman. And Okay, sure thing. Sure, you are one.
Right. DIE has made you incompetent. Your brain cells have DIE'd.
But no, sure, we're just going to gaslight you because we understand. And look, here's the thing. If they thought that they could attain power by holding the opposite position, God, they'd flip so quick. Do you remember just a few short years ago, Democrats were all about some traditional marriage. There would be no gay marriage.
Democrats like, for example, Joe Biden.
Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
Yeah. Remember that? And then the winds changed, and now suddenly, oh no, you're a bigot if you don't support gay marriage. Hold on now. When did you stop being a bigot? So look, we've literally
When
got
did
like
you stop beating your wife?
yeah. So when did you stop beating your wife? Only in this case, it's true.
Yeah.
Look, we've got like 90 seconds of this left. Let's get through.
Ban anything, nor does the rule apply to all stabilizing braces. The rule under the National Firearms Act helps define and clarify what the characteristics of a firearm that would be a short-barreled rifle.
With your
Because there was
clarification,
inconsistency.
is it true or not that millions of Americans will be defined as felons after May 31 if they don't follow this new regulation? True or
Okay. Is it true or not? Okay. Binary. Yes or no question. Is it true or is it not true that millions of Americans will suddenly be defined as felons on May 31st?
or not?
I assume that people are going to either detach the weapons, follow the things.
If they
that
don't follow the
government-
regulation, they'll be a felon, right? You're a former federal prosecutor.
Yeah, and
I assume that people are going to take specific actions. That is an important piece of this problem that needs to be addressed. This is not dissimilar to laws prescribing the use of preferred pronouns. Law is prohibitive, not prescriptive.
Well,
We have very, very, very few laws in this country which are prescriptive for a reason, and all of those laws are contingent. A good example would be the law compelling you to carry car insurance. Well, you are only compelled to carry car insurance contingent on your use of an automobile on public roadways.
yeah, if you don't own a car,
If you don't own a car, you don't have to have car insurance. If you own a car, say for example a work truck, a pickup truck that is only driven on a farm and never uses a public roadway, you don't have to pay road taxes on that. You don't have to carry insurance on that, because the law, when it is prescriptive, is it's very important that it is contingent. This was one of the big problems with Obamacare, is Obamacare offered penalties for not taking a prescribed action rather than for taking a prohibited action. What we're talking about here is not that after May 31st, if you buy a pistol brace, you will have committed a felony. It is on May 31st, if you have purchased a pistol brace, you will have been retroactively felonized.
and that goes against how laws in this country generally work anyway. If a thing was legal yesterday and then a law is passed today to make it illegal, you cannot be prosecuted tomorrow for the thing you did yesterday while it was not against the law. So this is such a dirty trick too. Alex and Danny did a really deep dive on this whole thing where in order to register your pistol brace, you basically have to admit to having one.
Right.
And of course they're going to take forever to issue you your license. And then once you're outside of the period, maybe they'll issue your license, maybe not. But then once you're, what is it? It's like 90 days or 180 days. But after a certain amount of time, if a license isn't granted, if it's just stuck in the system, it's automatically rejected and you're forced to reapply. Well, how many of these people are going to say, oh, well, I guess I got to register my pistol brace. And now they put themselves on the hook because they've admitted to breaking a law that's not a law yet.
And this is an important distinction too. This is different from the way that the NFA went into place to begin with. And don't take this as a defense of the NFA. The NFA is a deeply unconstitutional, criminally treacherous act of our government against the interests of its citizens. But I do want to point out that unlike the passage of the NFA, at which point, if you already owned a machine gun lawfully,
It was grandfathered in.
it's grandfathered. It's you're not suddenly retroactively a criminal for owning that machine gun, right? Whereas in this case, this is the NFA was law. In this case, we have an agency of the government creating legislation. They keep calling it a regulation or policy, but it's not. They are effectively creating legislation. And a major important difference here is that as function of law, it carries the threat of force up to and including your death at the hands of one of these fucking criminal rogue agents. Never forget that. All ATF agents are, by definition, criminals. They are engaged in not only the violation of your rights under 242, but treason. And there's no excuse for it. Let's finish the last little bit of this and get the safety brief, and then I got to go somewhere.
And I will tell you that that federal prosecutions do not happen with respect to law-abiding people who can't have a criminal intent established. That is not a priority.
Okay, here's the problem we have. Here's the problem we have. Okay, you ran for Ohio Attorney General in 2018. Your platform included gun control. We know where you stand, right? As recently as 10 minutes ago, Ms. Jackson-Lee, you couldn't answer or define what a so-called assault weapon is. You continue to not be able to do that or refuse to do it. It's clear that you came to ATF with an agenda, I believe, to infringe upon good law-abiding Americans' rights. And you're going to turn them into criminals with this regulation, and you seem to have no remorse about it. I'm out of time, and I yield back.
So, wait. I just want to stop. Did he actually just say a version of, well, you don't have to worry about us actually prosecuting you over a bullshit technicality? Did he actually just say that? He didn't use those words, but he said, "No, fam, don't worry. They're not going to come after you on some dumb shit."
Right.
I mean, unless you're a little old lady who got caught up in a protest on January 6th. I mean, ooh. And there's a reason why everything in our criminal defense system is at least nominally geared toward the defendant. It's because nothing is really geared toward the defendant, even when we say it's geared toward the defendant. As soon as the government decides that it's going to take an action against you, you really can't do much about it. It's the government. No matter what your philosophical underpinnings are about the nature of power, like, the state has the monopoly on violence. So if they're going to accuse you of a crime and prosecute you for a crime, the only thing you can do is defend yourself. And so to act like the federal government, the most powerful state on the planet, is just going to be like, oh, no, we would never persecute our potential political enemies in order to make a point. Us, would we do that? No. What are you talking about? Oh, wow, that was. And this guy was a prosecutor, so he knows this. He knows that even your absolute, like, bullshit prosecutors, like, they've all got something like a 90% conviction rate, because once the state brings something against you, you don't even necessarily have to be guilty. Like, all they have to do is have evidence, and they have to be able to have enough evidence to take it to a jury that you did the thing they're saying that you did. You're mitigating circumstances and all of that goes out the window. There's a reason why defense attorneys charge thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, because they're worth it.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
And part of why they're worth it is because the standard is not that a prosecutor's standard is not that we won't prosecute unless we reasonably believe you to be guilty. It is, we will not prosecute unless we reasonably believe that we can secure a conviction. And that is an important distinction.
Alex McDonald, clip that and save it for your lawyers. The ATF director saying, "Nah, fam, you're good."
We'll have to take a look at that later. And that is all the time we have this morning. Y'all be safe out there. We're going into the weekend. There's nothing special going on this weekend, is there?
I mean, work.
Work indeed.
Sometimes I miss pest control because I was off on the weekends.
I also used to take work weekends off, but anyway, y'all be safe out there. Don't drive drunk, don't fry bacon naked, and don't stick your dick in a toaster. We love you, and we'll see you on Monday.